If you like Pegasus, an old school Yu-Gi-Oh, and that Toon World card and that ability, then you should have absolutely zero qualms with Walt Disney Luffy, aka Monkey D equaling Disney Luffy. Absolutely zero qualms. It should all be A-OK in your book.
Hey, everybody.
But of course, that's not reality, and some folks just ain't about this at all. To the point where some folks, like a small minority, have actually left the series. Like, they're done with One Piece, which is interesting, not gonna lie to you. So a quick video on this topic, because it looks like the vast majority of fans, like clearly the vast majority of fans, are all about Walt Disney Luffy. But because there are some fans that are like, no, I'm not fans at all, because to them, it appears that there is a major tonal shift in the series, so they're out, which does make a degree of sense, because it happens in a lot of series that do these major shifts. Like, for example, right, I myself was an Attack on Titan fan. I am no longer. Why? Because that basement reveal was so bad. It was so horrible, I bounced, all right? I would pass even beyond that, even up towards a certain character's death. I won't say her name, but when she croaked, I didn't care. And that's how I knew, you know what? No, I'm done. AOT, I was a big fan of, but because of that major tonal shift, I was gone. And I had big issues, fundamentally so, where the story was going. So the question here ultimately is, okay, is One Piece going in that same direction? And I think in their minds it is, but in reality, it's not. It's honest to God not. Because outside of a style change in Luffy's combat to a certain degree, and also some gag stuff, like for example, the pop-out eyes, I will admit, the pop-out eyes are pretty aggressive, because in the past 2 chapters, we've seen a lot with Kaido, with Luffy a few times, with Law, Kid, Nami, and so, yeah, okay. So Oda should kind of bring that back in, because sometimes when Oda does too much of the same comedic routine, it does lose a lot of gas. Like for example, the Brook Skull jokes or the Sanji nosebleeds at the beginning of the time skip, that kind of stuff. But outside of that, it's actually very clear that Luffy's actually not using like genuine Toon Force. Like, he's not a Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck character, but the style of fighting with the Awakening, actually controlling Kaido's body and the environment around him, and his own body does kind of mimic that style of cartoon. And Oda's choice to mimic, to a degree of course, that style of cartoon in this fight, some folks think it's too jarring. But Luffy's not actually like breaking the fourth wall, or he's not like bending the actual panel page or something. He's not actually doing that. Everything that he's done is all conducive to his own awakening, and that foundation I think has been laid out so solidly, I can't find any qualms with this at all, at least for the time being, of course. And when it comes to even the fight itself, he's not even dominating Kaido. He's doing all these weird Looney Tunes antics, but he's not even dominating Kaido. Kaido's still clean. Kaido gets that shot at the end, and then when Luffy was inside of Kaido's body, he did do some damage to Kaido then, but for the most part, Kaido has been studly as all hell, and he's not getting rolled and smoked like many folks thought that he would. Even though he did get skipped, he bounced back with a blast breath. Like, okay. And even still, the reason why I think the vast, at least according to Twitter, as far as I understand, the vast majority of One Piece fans, not like outside fan bases like Naruto or Bleach or Attack on Titan or JJK or Demon Slayer, not those cats. I don't care about them. I care about One Piece fans. A lot of times what you see, especially in these online spaces, is particular fan groups try and tack on the issues that their series has to One Piece. And the problem is, of course, One Piece has issues. If you follow my content, you know that I've called these problems out before time and time again. But One Piece does not have the same issues, for the most part, that these other series have. And within the fandom itself, part of the reason why so many folks are okay with this chapter and the fighting style, as far as I can tell, is because what we're seeing here is just a souped up version of what we've already seen in the series so many times. It's actually so much in lockstep with One Piece, but kind of focused on more so for the Gear 5 Awakening. That's really it. The main issue seems to be tone more than anything else. How can Luffy ever have a serious fight with these zany Space Jam antics? That is the prima issue that folks who are One Piece fans, as far as I can tell, have. Because obviously in One Piece, there's war, life and death battles, but Luffy's acting so carefree, And in future battles with Gear 5, they may think, okay, hold on, these fights in the future will never be serious ever again. Something like that. But to me, it is a bit confusing because there clearly are absolutely very serious tones for this chapter, because the idea that you get is that Luffy is all smiles, all gags, all frills, all frills. It's almost as if like Luffy, when he was getting chomped down by Kaido, he wasn't putting on a serious face, and he got out-muscled by Kaido's own jaw strength. Or even the blast breath that he took, point blank. You can see the shock and the horror on Luffy's face before the impact of the blast breath. Or before Luffy takes the Ragnaraku, charging Kaido in a very serious tone, intent on beating Kaido's ass. The last panel, literally, people thought that he had punched a hole through Kaido's skull. I ain't gonna lie, as did I. And that is some heavy content. Luffy in that panel, when Kaido's on the ground, on his back, looks hella serious, hella menacing. Even in this chapter, we see Luffy literally pushing himself to restart Gear 5, even though he's killing himself in the process. That seems like a pretty serious tone to me.
He was right.
When you're willing to fight so hard that you don't care about your own life in the process, that's a pretty serious tone to me. The question ultimately then has to be, can Luffy have serious fights with a wonky ability like Gear 5? And I think it's obviously a yes, because we see in this actual chapter there are some very deadly serious tones. But of course the balance is important, that is without a doubt. Because if he goes too far in one direction, then it kind of voids the other side, clearly. After all, what's the point of an overly serious edgelord Luffy when you have a crazy wonky ability like Gear 5? But at the same time, if we're too wonky, too weird, too Looney Tunes, then we can't take this whole situation, life and death, that seriously. So far, the balance I think is relatively fine. And things in the future, like very serious villains and their serious tones, and that high sense of danger fighting against these people is also very important. Which I would say for Kaido, it's very clear that we have both those things. And it's amazing too how folks kind of forget that a few chapters ago, Luffy literally got sneaked by CP0 and potentially died, got killed by Kaido as a result of that. Edgelords, that's a pretty heavy stuff. Oh, but then some may say,
we can go deeper, we can get bloodier.
If we go any deeper and we go any bloodier, okay, we're gonna be in like Tokyo Ghoul territory. And for One Piece, nobody wants that. Hell no. We're better than that. Absolutely. And mind you, I love edgelord content, but for One Piece, we rise above that. Absolutely. But then folks now may say, hold up though, but Luffy, he's not taking this fight seriously. Like, he's enjoying himself in this fight. Huh? Like, Luffy enjoying a good fight, even in life and death, isn't new. It's not new at all. Look at Captain Kuro or Don Krieg or Katakuri. Half the damn time, he's doing weird stuff and he's enjoying himself. Even in chapter 1036, him and Kaido are laughing, enjoying this fight as they fight to the death. Luffy still, from that chapter, in this chapter, 1045, has the same energy. He's kept the same energy. So, at the end of the damn day, I can understand why some One Piece fans do want to bounce from the series now as a result of this chapter. But obviously, I would say it's extremely premature because the tone, I don't think, has shifted anywhere near the level as they would probably think. Like, let's say if the tone was 100 on a scale to 200 in seriousness, and now folks think it's like a 10, it's actually probably like a 95. And it only applies to just Gear 5 in a particular situation. That's really it. That's how minor the shift is. And because Oda has provided such a strong foundation for what an awakening of the ability would be for Luffy, I think that's part of the reason why so many people across the fandom are really cool with this. Like, they love it or they like it, and they're still kind of like hesitating to see what happens in the future. Fair enough, fine. But for the most part, that foundation of what the ability of the awakening would be for Luffy is rock solid. So in the future, let's say I get someone like Blackbeard, let's say Emu, or let's say Thor, if Thor's OD powerful in Elbaf, or let's say Akainu, if Akainu's ever that powerful, he's gonna kick his ass and leave him bloody. No doubt. No doubt. But in the process, it wouldn't surprise me if, let's say, it gets Akainu, he gives him a wet willy. He gives him a noogie. He gives him a wedgie. And when the monkey massive Nika D walks away with his opponent on the ground, bloody and beaten, he walks away with a nice cherry on top. And that cherry on top is a clown nose on his face.